When my phone rang that Tuesday afternoon, I wasn't expecting chaos. I wasn't expecting betrayal. Honestly, I wasn't expecting anything more dramatic than my daughter asking whether I preferred navy or lilac napkins for her wedding rehearsal dinner. Because that's why I was calling her, to confirm the time, to make sure I arrived early enough not to embarrass her, to be useful, helpful, present. So when I heard her voice answer, light, airy, almost distracted, I smiled before I even spoke. "Hey, sweetheart," I said. "I just wanted to double-check something. What time is the rehearsal dinner on Friday? I want to make sure I'm there early." There was a silence so brief I didn't think anything of it until I heard the tone that followed. The tone I would never forget. "Rehearsal," Emily said, her voice flattening into something that didn't sound like my daughter at all. "Mom, what rehearsal?" I blinked, confused. "For the wedding, honey. Friday night? You told me." She cut me off with a little laugh. A laugh.
"Oh, Mom.
There's no rehearsal dinner." I felt the first pinprick of unease in my chest. "No rehearsal? Why not?" "I mean," she sighed, "there's nothing to rehearse. Trevor and I already got married." Her words hit me harder than if someone had kicked me in the ribs. "You what?" "We got married yesterday," she said cheerfully, like she was announcing a weather update. "Just a small ceremony. Only the people who mattered were invited." My fingers went numb around the phone. "Only the people who mattered." She said it so casually, so carelessly, like she wasn't slicing into me with every syllable. My mind tried to make sense of it. Emily had spent months talking about floral options and bridesmaids and seating charts. She'd shown me pictures of dresses. She'd told me she wanted me to walk her down the aisle since her father had never been in her life. We'd cried over that. We'd hugged over it. But now, she had married the day before. Without me, without telling me, without inviting me. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Emily didn't notice. Or she did and didn't care. "Anyway," she chirped, "can you do me a favor?"
A favor.
Right there, right after telling me I wasn't one of the people who mattered, my daughter asked me for a favor. "What do you need?" My voice sounded like someone else's, thin, distant, stunned. "We need the keys to the lake house," she said. "Could you rush them to us before Friday? Trevor really wants to spend our honeymoon there." My heart didn't break. It cracked slowly, like an old wooden floorboard splitting under too much weight. "The lake house," I repeated, barely whispering. She had the nerve to giggle. I know, romantic, right? Trevor says the lake house is the perfect honeymoon spot. Quiet, secluded, scenic. You know how he loves the views. Secluded, quiet, private. That was the place where Emily learned to fish. The place where she and I had sat on the porch eating cinnamon rolls every summer. The place her grandfather built with his bare hands. A place full of memories she once claimed she'd cherish forever. Now she wanted to hand it to a man she'd known for 2 years, a man I didn't trust, a man whose smile never reached his eyes, for a honeymoon I wasn't even told about. "Mom, are you still there?" I swallowed hard. "I'm here." "So," she asked, "can you drop off the keys? We're heading out Friday morning." My throat tightened. "You didn't think to tell me you were getting married?" She exhaled, annoyed. "Mom, please don't start. We didn't want drama." Trevor thought it was healthier to keep it small. Less pressure. More intimate. And Mom, I just don't want to argue. Please respect that, okay? Respect that. A familiar ache spread behind my ribs, slow and suffocating. "Sure," I whispered. "Of course, sweetheart." The word felt bitter on my tongue. "Great. And Mom," she added lightly, "please don't make this weird. This is supposed to be a happy time for us." A happy time. For them. Meanwhile, I sat in my kitchen clutching a phone, trying not to fall apart. "Okay, I managed. I'll get you the keys." "Perfect," Emily said, back to her cheerful mood. "Text me before you come by. Trevor wants to make sure we're home when you drop them off."
Ah, of course he did.
He wanted to watch me hand the keys over. He wanted to see that I complied. He wanted power. Sure, I whispered. We said our goodbyes, hers bright and breezy, mine hollow, and I slowly lowered the phone from my ear. For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe. The kitchen around me felt like it had tilted to one side. The floral curtains swayed gently in the breeze from the open window. The clock on the wall ticked cheerfully, oblivious to the way my world had just snapped in two. On the table, the lake house keys lay where I'd left them earlier that morning, four cool, silver pieces of metal on a faded blue keychain. I stared at them. The smallest key still had the bite marks from when 5-year-old Emily pretended she was unlocking treasure. The largest key opened the heavy cedar door that her grandfather had carved initials into. The blue keychain was one she had chosen at age 9, a cartoon fish with googly eyes that used to make her laugh uncontrollably. Those keys were memories,
History, love, family.
and now my daughter wanted to hand them over to a man she barely knew, a man who had systematically pried her away from me until I was a stranger. I picked up the keys with trembling fingers. For the first time since the call began, my expression changed. My eyes narrowed as a quiet, powerful clarity settled in my chest. She wanted the keys. She wanted the lake house. She wanted to push me out of her life entirely, as if I were nothing more than a guest overstaying my welcome. But she didn't know everything. She didn't know what I knew about Nathan. She didn't know what I had discovered weeks earlier. She didn't know the truth about the lake house, about its legal protections, or about what her new husband was really after. And she certainly didn't know what I was planning. I set the keys down carefully. Then I whispered to the empty room. All right, sweetheart. If it's the lake house you want, I'll give you exactly what you deserve. 3 days later, I left a beautifully wrapped honeymoon gift at their apartment door. What happened when her husband opened it made him scream so violently the neighbors thought someone had been murdered. And that moment was the beginning of the end. My name is Helen Whitford, and I'm 62 years old. I've lived in the same cedar-sided house on Willow Ridge for 37 years. I raised my daughter in this house. I buried my husband from this house. I have laughed, cried, and rebuilt my life inside its walls. And until last week, I truly believed I knew my daughter. I'm not naive. I know children grow up. They become their own people with their own opinions, their own lives, their own mistakes. But Emily and I didn't have the kind of relationship that faded with time. We were close, the kind of close that people envied. The kind of close forged through hardship and survival. Emily was only 4 when her father died. A sudden cardiac arrest. 1 minute, he was laughing in the living room, tossing her into the air. The next, I was on the floor performing CPR with shaking hands while Emily cried, clutching his sleeve. After that night, it was just the two of us. Mother and daughter. Teammates. Best friends. Each other's everything. We made it through by holding on to one another. I worked 2 jobs, teaching during the day, waitressing at night. But I never missed a ballet recital, a parent-teacher meeting, or a Saturday morning pancake ritual. Emily wasn't just my daughter. She was my purpose. And she knew it. She used to call me every day during college. Sometimes twice. Sometimes just to tell me she'd tried a new smoothie and thought I'd hate it. Even after she moved out and got her first real job, she still called on her lunch breaks. Mom, guess what happened at work? Mom, I just saw the funniest dog in the park. Mom, my lasagna will never taste like yours. Mom, I miss you. She would show up at my door unannounced just to eat leftovers and fall asleep on the couch like she did when she was 8. We had traditions, dozens of them, but none more sacred than the lake house. The lake house. That quiet little cabin on Lake Willow Run was our portal to peace. My late husband built the dock himself. Emily learned to swim there. She learned to fish there. She learned to trust the world again there. Every summer, we'd spend an entire month sitting on that porch, watching the water glitter under the sun, roasting marshmallows at night, telling stories until we fell asleep to the sound of crickets. That lake house wasn't a vacation spot. It was family. It was history. It was home. And Emily loved it, fiercely, protectively, almost as much as I did. At least she used to. I don't know exactly when the shift happened. When the calls became shorter. When the visits became fewer. When the warmth in her voice started cooling. But I do remember the moment I felt something slip. It was subtle, so subtle that I ignored it at first. She had met someone. Nathan. The man who would eventually become her husband. The man who would isolate her. Change her. Encourage her to cut me out of her life. All while keeping a smile so polished it reflected any suspicion back onto me. But that part of the story comes later. For now, all the audience needs to know is this. Emily wasn't always like this. I wasn't always excluded. Our story didn't begin with betrayal or secrets or cruel phone calls. It began with love. It began with trust. It began with two people, a mother and daughter, who survived hell together and came out stronger. So when you hear what she said to me on that phone call, when you hear the cold, brittle way she tossed me aside like a stranger, you might wonder how we got here. I wondered the same thing. Because that wasn't my daughter's voice. That wasn't the girl I raised. That wasn't the child who once clung to my sleeve at her father's funeral and whispered, "Don't ever leave me, Mom." But life is cruel in the way it reshapes people, especially when the wrong person gets a hold of them. And Nathan was the wrong person in every sense. Smooth where he should have been sincere. Charming where he should have been honest. Calculated where he should have been compassionate. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The betrayal that happened last week, the secret wedding, the exclusion, the request for the lake house keys, was only the final stab in a long, quiet decline I'd been too hopeful to see. Something had been poisoning Emily's heart for months, and she had been drinking it willingly. But before we reach that part of the story, before we unravel Nathan's intentions, his past, his pattern, his plan, before the truth detonates and Emily's world collapses, I need you to understand what I lost. What we both lost. What used to exist before he stepped into her life and began twisting it into something unrecognizable. Because betrayal only hurts when it comes from the person you'd give everything for. And Emily was that person for me. Until last week, when she told me I wasn't one of the people who mattered. When she stood on the other side of a phone and dismissed 3 decades of love with one careless sentence. When she asked for the lake house keys, the keys to our memories, as if she were asking for a cup of sugar. But the thing about being blindsided is this. Once the shock fades, a strange, powerful clarity takes its place. And what I did with that clarity, what I discovered, what I planned, what I executed, would set off a chain reaction no one, not even Nathan, saw coming. For now, I'll leave you with this. I wasn't always the villain in my daughter's story, but I was about to become the hero of my own. I wish I could tell you the story of how everything went wrong in one clear, sharp moment, a clean slice of betrayal, a single turning point where Emily changed from the daughter I knew into the stranger who spoke to me on the phone that day. But real life doesn't crumble in straight lines. It fractures in a series of tiny, almost invisible cracks. You don't notice them at first. You step over them. You excuse them. You pretend they aren't growing. And then one day, the floor collapses beneath you. That's what happened with Emily, with Nathan, with us. And like every disaster, it began with something deceptively small. It was a warm Saturday in early May. The kind of day that still smells like spring, with the breeze carrying hints of pine and lake water even from miles away. Emily had called the night before, cheerful, bubbly, excited in a way that reminded me of her high school years. "Mom," she said, "I want you to meet someone." Those words should have been a joy, a milestone. Every mother hopes her daughter finds someone who sees her the way she deserves to be seen. "I'm making dinner tomorrow," I replied. "Bring him." She laughed. "I already told him you cook better than any restaurant." He's excited. And I was excited too. I hadn't heard that lightness in her voice in months. I spent the next morning cooking her favorite roast chicken, kneading dough for homemade rolls, cutting fresh herbs from my garden like I'd done since she was little. The house smelled like love. Emily walked in first, her face glowing, her hair in loose curls, her smile wide and genuine. But behind her came a man whose presence made the air shift, subtly, but enough for my instincts to stiffen. Nathan Morgan. He was tall, polished, almost too put together. His smile was the kind that looked practiced in a mirror, confident, symmetrical, maybe even rehearsed. He handed me a bouquet of lilies while his eyes took in the house like he was assessing something. "Mrs. Whitford," he said, "I've heard so much about you." I thanked him, but something about the way his gaze slid toward the framed family photos made my stomach tighten. Still, I told myself to stop being judgmental. First impressions can be wrong. I owed my daughter better than suspicion. Dinner began pleasantly enough. Nathan complimented everything: my cooking, my home, even the woodwork on the staircase. He asked thoughtful questions about my teaching career, my hobbies, my past. But there was something unsettling in the way he listened. He didn't ask because he cared. He asked because he was collecting information. I didn't have proof of that then. Only intuition. But intuition is a mother's first language. At one point, Emily mentioned the lake house. Her voice softened when she talked about it, the way it always did. "Mom's lake house is my favorite place on earth," she said. "I grew up there. I swear half my happy childhood memories happened on that porch." Nathan leaned forward, elbows on the table. "A lake house," he repeated lightly. He looked at me. "That sounds valuable." Valuable. Not peaceful. Not meaningful. Not comforting. Valuable. I forced a smile. "It's small, but it's home." "What's the property value like in that area?" he asked casually. "I know waterfronts can appreciate fast." Emily laughed, not noticing the shift in my expression. "Oh, Nathan loves real estate. He's obsessed with investment potential." Investment potential. For my lake house. My husband's legacy. My daughter's memories. But I brushed it off.
People talked.
People asked questions. Not everyone had bad intentions. Still, something had begun. Emily called less the week after that dinner. Not dramatically less. Not enough to create panic. But enough for me to notice. Instead of her daily lunch call, I got a quick evening check-in. "Sorry, Mom. Work is crazy." Or, "Nathan took me out for dinner, it ran late." Or, "Can I call you tomorrow? I'm exhausted." Perfectly reasonable excuses. Perfectly normal explanations. But Mother's intuition whispered again. Something was changing, and I didn't want it to. So, I ignored it. I excused it. I told myself, she's happy. Let her be happy. I didn't see it then. The subtle shift in her priorities, the way Nathan had begun positioning himself as the center of her world. But I felt it. The painful truth is, you can feel someone slipping away long before you understand why. The first real sting came 3 months later. Emily had always asked me to help her choose her birthday outfit, ever since she was a teenager. It was a tradition. A silly one maybe, but ours. So when her birthday approached, I assumed she would come by. She didn't. She posted photos instead. A rooftop dinner Nathan planned, her wearing a dress I'd never seen before, Nathan's hand resting at the small of her back. She looked beautiful.
Happy.
But her caption cut deeper than she knew. "Thank you for my best birthday yet, Nathan. You made today perfect." No mention of me. "No, Mom, I miss you." Not even a call. It was the first time in her 27 years that she hadn't spent her birthday, even a part of it, with me. I told myself not to take it personally. But personal is exactly what it was. When I called the next morning, she let it ring 4 times before answering, sounding irritated. "Mom, I'm with Nathan. Can we talk later?"
Talk later.
Those 2 words echoed in my chest like an accusation. For the first time, I realized Nathan wasn't just part of Emily's life. He was beginning to overshadow it. Over the next months, the changes multiplied. Emily stopped visiting the lake house. Stopped asking about holidays. Stopped sharing little updates about her life. She explained everything through a fog of vague phrases. Nathan thinks. Nathan says. Nathan believes. Her language shifted. Her independence dimmed. Her personality bent, slowly, like a tree leaning under a growing weight. She didn't notice herself changing. She didn't feel the tilt in her orbit. She didn't see that she was revolving around someone who wanted her small, obedient, compliant.
But I saw. I always saw.
And yet, I said nothing. Because a mother's greatest curse is hope. Hope that things will get better. Hope that the person you love will wake up. Hope that your relationship can withstand anything. But Nathan wasn't anything. Nathan was a force, a strategist, a manipulator. And he had plans. It was a rainy evening in November when my suspicions shifted from instinct to certainty. Emily had stopped by for a quick visit, something rare by then, and Nathan had come along. He was pacing around my living room like a realtor assessing potential renovations. At one point, he paused near the fireplace, hands in pockets, head tilted. "You know," he said casually, "this place would sell for a great price. You could live comfortably for years if you downsized." Emily laughed, nudging him playfully. "Nathan, stop trying to buy my mom's house." He smirked, just thinking logically. Waterfront, even if it's lakefront, is gold. Something in me turned to ice. He'd said lakefront, but I had not mentioned the lake house at all that day. Emily hadn't either. I hadn't spoken about it since summer. So how did he know? How much had Emily told him? And why did he sound like he'd been researching it? I asked gently, "Have you been looking into property values in this area?" Nathan shrugged. "Oh, just curiosity. I like staying informed." But his smile, that smile was not curiosity. It was calculation. That was the moment something deep within me whispered, "He's dangerous." And, for the first time, I listened. People think the last straw is loud. It's not. It's quiet. So quiet you almost miss it. For me, it happened on a cold January evening. I had gone on Facebook, something I rarely did, and saw a photo of Emily. She was surrounded by women I didn't know, holding a bouquet of white roses, wearing a silky sash that said bride-to-be. My heart stalled. A bridal shower. My daughter's bridal shower. Thrown by Nathan's mother. Attended by Nathan's friends. Photographed by someone else. And I was not invited. Not informed. Not acknowledged. In fact, the caption read, "So grateful for the women in my life who've supported my journey into this next chapter." Women in her life. Supported her journey. I was now neither. I sat at my kitchen table and stared at that picture so long the screen dimmed. I picked up my phone. Dialed her number. She didn't answer. I tried again. Finally, she texted, "Hey mom, can't talk.
Busy.
Everything's fine. We'll update you soon." Update me. Like a distant acquaintance. That was the moment I knew something was deeply, irreversibly wrong. Nathan wasn't just influencing her. He was controlling her. He was isolating her. And one day, one chilling day, he would take everything from her, including the lake house. Especially the lake house. And I knew then and there. I had to act. I had to uncover the truth. I had to protect her, even if she didn't want me to. Because a mother never stops being a mother. Not even when her child pushes her away. That was the night I turned off my phone, closed the curtains, and began digging. Everything that happened afterward. The secrets I would uncover. The lies I would expose. The plan that would take shape. And the package that would make Nathan scream. All of it began with that moment. The moment I realized my daughter was in danger. And didn't even know it. I didn't sleep the night I saw the bridal shower photos. I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment from the past year. Every red flag I had brushed aside. Every moment I felt Emily slipping away. Every smile Nathan flashed that seemed too polished, too strategic. By dawn, one truth had crystallized. Something was wrong, and I wasn't imagining it. So, I got out of bed, made a cup of black coffee, and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. For the first time, I typed his name into Google. Nathan Morgan. The name looked innocent enough. Common, even. But the results were strangely thin. There were a few social media profiles, all private. A LinkedIn with almost no real connections. A generic business consultant title with vague descriptions. Photos that didn't look candid, but curated. Curated is the right word. His online presence wasn't lived in. It was constructed. Still, that wasn't enough proof of anything. Some people are just private. But I kept digging. Another Google search. Then another. Then shifting keywords. Nathan Morgan Finance. Nathan Morgan Debt. Nathan Morgan Real Estate. Nathan Morgan Lawsuit. And that's when I found the first crack. A tiny comment on an obscure forum from 3 years ago. Beware of a man named Nathan Morgan. He'll charm you, isolate you, and then bleed you dry. My heart pounded. It wasn't much. No last name initials. No city listed. Just a warning from someone anonymous. But something about it felt familiar. So I kept going. The breakthrough came from an unlikely place. A college friend of Emily's, Sophia. I remembered Sophia because she used to practically live in our house during their teenage years. They drifted apart later, but she still followed Emily on Instagram. I messaged her on Facebook. Hi Sophia, it's Helen, Emily's mom. I'm hoping you can help me with something regarding Nathan. She replied within minutes. Of course. Honestly, I'm worried too. Worried? I froze. Worried about what? I typed. Her response came in fast. I didn't want to overstep, but he just seems familiar. Like I've seen him before. Let me dig a little. And dig she did. An hour later, she texted me a link. A photo. Of Nathan. Only not with Emily. With another woman. A woman named Claire Dawson. Who is she? I typed. Sophia replied. His ex-fiancée. I felt my stomach drop. There were more pictures, engagement ones, posted 2 years earlier. The captions. Can't wait for forever. She's my everything. Future Mrs. Morgan. Everything sounded rehearsed. Identical to the words he used with Emily. But that wasn't the worst part. The engagement ended abruptly. Public posts stopped. Her account went dark. Friends commented, "Stay strong, Whiteheart." Family posted religious quotes about healing. Someone wrote, "Truth always comes out eventually." I stared at that line. Truth. Comes out. Eventually. I needed more. I looked up Claire Dawson on every platform I could find. Most accounts were private. But there was one. A Pinterest board of quotes about financial abuse, manipulation, and escaping toxic engagement. My chest tightened. This wasn't coincidence. This was a pattern. I clicked on a tagged photo, one that wasn't hidden. Claire was standing next to her sister at a family reunion. The background caught my eye immediately. A lake. Not my lake, but a lakefront property. Waterfront property. Another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Nathan's ex-fiancée had access to a lakefront estate too. Jesus. What had he been doing? Was Emily chosen? Not for love, but for the lake house? For the property? For the assets? A sickening realization spread through me. With new determination, I kept digging. It took hours, but eventually I found another breadcrumb. A comment under a photo of Claire. He did the same thing to my cousin. My hands shook as I messaged the commenter privately. A woman named Marissa responded. We don't like to talk about it. But yes. Claire wasn't his first fiancée. I asked her everything. She hesitated. Then she sent me a name. Lily Harrington. I searched it. And there she was, smiling in old photos, standing next to Nathan in professional engagement photos taken 4 years ago. Same poses. Same captions. Same sickening charm. But once again, all posts stopped suddenly. No explanation. I dug deeper. And then I found it. A local news article from 2019. Woman breaks off engagement amid financial dispute. It didn't list Nathan's name, but the details matched. Her fiancé encouraged her to add him to her bank accounts. He pressured her to sign over partial property rights. He initiated loan applications in her name. She discovered inconsistencies in his background. It was him. It had to be. 2 fiancés, 2 patterns, 2 near financial disasters. And now Emily was next. If I didn't intervene, she would lose everything. her money, her property, her sense of self. It was all happening again. And she didn't see any of it. I shifted my investigation to Nathan's business. His LinkedIn claimed, independent consultant specializing in asset optimization. Whatever that meant. But when I clicked through, every job reference was vague. Every skill endorsement came from accounts with no profile pictures. Every workplace listed either no website or a dead link. This wasn't a career. It was a shield. Then something new appeared when I clicked a financial background check, one teachers often use to verify tutors or volunteers. Federal tax lien, 2018. Unpaid mortgage, 2020. Debt settlement case, 2021. My hands went cold. Nathan wasn't financially stable. He was drowning. And drowning men cling to anything that floats, including other people's property. Especially waterfront property. I wasn't prepared for the final discovery. While searching the county property transfer records, mostly out of desperation, a familiar name jumped out at me. Harold Morgan, Nathan's uncle. A man I hadn't thought about in over a decade. A man who once tried to pressure my late husband into selling the lake house. We had refused. Politely at first. Then firmly. Then legally. Harold had been furious. Threatened a lawsuit. Tried to intimidate us. He acclaimed, that land will be worth millions one day. And you two don't know what to do with it. We shut the door in his face. I remembered the day clearly because Emily, only 15 at the time, had cried afterward, frightened by the aggression. Now here we were, years later. Harold had disappeared from our lives. But his nephew had found my daughter. Not by coincidence, but by calculation. Deliberate. Strategic. Cold. He wasn't marrying Emily. He was acquiring her. Acquiring the lake house. Acquiring our legacy. Acquiring everything we loved. And Emily, sweet, trusting Emily, was letting him. The final confirmation came unexpectedly. A woman named Claire, yes, the Claire, replied to one of my private messages. Just one line. If he's with your daughter now, please protect her. I replied immediately. She didn't respond for hours. Then finally, he isolates you from your family, makes you rely on him for everything. Then he pressures you into financial decisions you wouldn't normally make. He almost ruined my life. Another message followed. When he finds out you own something valuable, he becomes fixated. Fixated. Waterfront property. My lake house. My chest tightened with rage and terror. But then she sent one more message, the one that changed everything. He will propose fast. He will rush the marriage. He will push for joint ownership. Once he has access, you're trapped. My hands trembled. My breath shook. She ended with, your daughter isn't safe. That was the moment the pieces finally aligned into one horrifying picture. Nathan didn't love Emily. He targeted her. He studied her. He groomed her. He manipulated her. He isolated her. He married her quickly. And now he wanted the lake house. For the first time in months, I felt something powerful rise inside me. Not fear. Not confusion. Not helplessness. War. A mother's war. Because Emily didn't see the danger. But I did. And I was done watching quietly. This wasn't just about losing my daughter. This was about saving her life. And I would. Oh, I would. Whatever it took. The moment Claire's final message appeared on my screen, something inside me crystallized. A mother's instinct had whispered for months. Fear had gnawed quietly. Suspicion had simmered. But now I wasn't guessing. I wasn't theorizing. I wasn't doubting myself. I knew. And knowing turned everything inside me sharp and clear, like a camera lens snapping into perfect focus. My daughter was in danger. And I was going to save her. Even if she hated me for it. Even if she no longer saw me as family that mattered. Even if she had walked into a secret wedding without me. Even if she asked for the lake house keys like I was some reluctant landlord. None of that mattered now. Because this was bigger than hurt feelings. This was survival. People assume turning into a warrior is loud. Dramatic. Fireworks and fury. But for me, it was quiet.
Still.
Controlled. It began with me pouring a cup of tea, steady hands, steady breath, and sitting at the dining table with a yellow notepad. On the top line I wrote, in capital letters, "What I know." Under it, Nathan isolates his partners. Nathan targets women with valuable property. 2 past engagements ended over his financial behavior. His family has tried to obtain my lake house before. He used identical strategies with Lily and Claire. He pressures for joint assets. He lies about his job. He hides financial debt. He married Emily in secret. He asked for the lake house keys immediately. Then on a new page, what I need. Proof of his financial motives. Records from his past relationships. Statements from previous victims. Evidence of deception. Property transfer attempts. Documentation of his debts. Confirmation of uncle's involvement. Legal positioning to protect the lake house. A plan he wouldn't see coming. And finally, what I must do. That list was the longest. And the most dangerous. Most people don't know this, but I once helped a student named Elena prepare for a scholarship interview that changed her life. She became a corporate attorney. 2 years ago, she told me, "If you ever need anything, Mrs. Whitford, call me." I mean it. So I called her. She picked up on the second ring. "Mrs. Whitford. Oh my God. How are you?" "Not well," I said honestly. "And I need your help." Her tone shifted immediately. Professional. Focused. "Tell me." I explained everything. Not the emotional parts, the facts. The patterns. The financial danger. The prior fiancés. His uncle's involvement. The lake house request. There was silence on the line for a moment. Then, "Helen, this is textbook property targeting." My stomach twisted. "So, I'm not overreacting."
No.
"You're describing a predator. This is financial coercion bordering on fraud. And if he's already married your daughter, you need to move fast." I exhaled, trembling slightly. "What do I do?" Elena didn't hesitate. "Get proof. Documentation. Anything verifiable. And do not let him near your lake house." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "I won't." "Helen." "Yes. Be careful. Men like him don't play fair." I closed my eyes. "I know." Next, I called Claire. I had messaged her earlier, but this time I needed to hear her voice. She answered on the second ring, her voice tense. "Hello." "Claire? It's Helen, Emily's mother." I expected hesitation. I expected distance. Instead, she whispered, "Oh,
God."
A pause. "I was hoping you'd call." Her voice cracked.
Raw.
Haunted. "I'm so sorry," she said before I could speak. "I wanted to warn you sooner, but I didn't want him to find me. He ruined my life for a year." I swallowed. "I need your help." "I know," she whispered. "Ask me anything." And she told me everything. His rage. His obsession with property. How he monitored her calls. Controlled her finances. Pushed her to sign things she didn't understand. Tried to get her to add him to her family's lake cabin title. Another lake house. Another pattern. My skin crawled. "If there's anything I can do to protect your daughter," she said softly, "I will. Would you be willing to provide a written statement?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. "I'll have it by tomorrow." One piece of evidence down. More to go. Finding Lily was harder. Her accounts were hidden. But I used the one thing everyone forgets. People rarely delete Pinterest boards. And Lily had one, full of quotes about healing from betrayal. I messaged her privately with a simple line. "He's with my daughter now. Please help me protect her." She responded an hour later. "I'll talk." Her story was nearly identical to Claire's. Same behavior. Same manipulation. Same financial pressure. Same obsession with waterfront property. "My parents saved me," she whispered. "I was days away from signing documents that would have destroyed my credit." He responded with, "That man is a walking red flag factory. What did he do now?" I told him a condensed version. He sighed. "Figures. He's a parasite." "Can you prove that?" I asked carefully. He chuckled. Lady, I've been waiting years for someone to ask me that. He sent an audio recording of Nathan bragging about manipulating a woman into co-signing a loan. Screenshots of texts threatening colleagues. A PDF where Nathan lied about his job title. I thanked him. He said, make sure your daughter runs. And Helen. Yes, don't let him know you're coming for him. He gets vicious when cornered. I swallowed. I won't. I gathered everything. Statements from Claire and Lily. Screenshots. Old emails. Financial documents. Audio recordings. Background checks. Property interest patterns. Screenshots of his fake LinkedIn. Proof of his debts. Articles about his uncle. Records of past property disputes. County documents on lakefront interest. I printed it all. Page after page. My dining table turned into a crime board. I didn't cry. Didn't tremble. Didn't second guess. Something inside me had shifted into perfect stillness. A mother's clarity. A protector's precision. Now I needed to deliver it. Not emotionally. Not through a confrontation. Not in a dramatic scene. But quietly. Calculated. Ruthless. In a mother's way. I bought a silver gift box. White ribbon. Cream tissue paper. Elegant. Beautiful.
Disarming.
Inside it, I placed a leather folder. The documents. The statements. The recordings. The background checks. Photos of his ex-fiancés. Screenshots of his debts. Evidence of his lies. And a note. Every husband deserves to know his wife's family history. Enjoy your honeymoon. Helen. Then I added one more thing. The keys. Not the real ones. Copies. On a new keychain. The original stayed with me. I closed the box slowly.
Carefully.
The trap was set. He would open it. He would see everything. He would realize I knew. And he would lose control. For the first time in months, I felt powerful. For the first time since losing my daughter, I felt like I could get her back. And what came next, what happened the moment he opened that gift, would change everything. It was Friday morning. The air felt strangely still, like the world knew something was about to happen. I woke before sunrise, my mind clear, my hands steady. I wasn't the same woman who had stumbled through the kitchen clutching the lake house keys days earlier. I wasn't lost, confused, or blindsided anymore. No, now I was focused, intentional, ready. The box sat on my dining table, wrapped in silver paper that shimmered under the soft morning light. The white bow looked almost angelic. If someone didn't know what was inside, they'd think it held something beautiful, expensive wine, gourmet chocolates, silk linens. But no, it held truth. Sharp, unforgiving truth. The kind of truth that doesn't just reveal, it detonates. I picked up the box, cradling it in both hands, and walked out to my car. The morning air was crisp. The kind that makes your breath look like smoke and your resolve look like steel. I placed the box carefully on the passenger seat. Let's end this, I whispered. The drive to Emily and Nathan's apartment felt both endless and strangely fast. Every turn felt surreal, like I was watching myself from outside my body. But inside, I felt calm. Not vengeful. Not spiteful. Just certain. Because this wasn't revenge. This was protection. This was the moment a mother draws a line. The moment she says no more. When I pulled into the apartment complex, the parking lot was almost empty. The sun was barely stretching over the rooftops. A few morning joggers passed by, unaware that history was being rewritten right in front of their neatly trimmed hedges. I parked, turned off the engine, sat in silence for 5 long seconds. Then I grabbed the box. My heartbeat was steady, not fast, not slow, steady like someone who had decided that fear had no place left in her life. Their door was on the 2nd floor, Unit 204. I climbed the steps slowly, the wooden railing cold beneath my fingertips. The hallway smelled like detergent and stale carpet, the scent of a place trying too hard to look like home, but failing. I stopped in front of their door. For a moment, I simply stood there, staring at the brass numbers. My daughter lived behind the store. My daughter slept behind the store. My daughter, manipulated, isolated, blind to danger, was behind this door. My chest ached, but I steadied myself. This gift wasn't meant to hurt her. It was meant to free her. And freedom sometimes begins with a scream. I set the box down gently, adjusting the ribbon so it looked perfect. Then I reached up and rang the doorbell. One short ring. A polite ring. Then I walked away. I didn't hide. Didn't run. Didn't linger to listen. I simply walked back down the stairs, calm and composed, and crossed the parking lot toward my car. I had just placed my hand on the car door when it happened. A door slammed open. Then, a sound tore through the quiet morning. A scream. A raw, furious, desperate scream. A man's scream. Nathan's. It wasn't the scream of someone surprised. It wasn't the scream of someone confused. It was the scream of someone who'd been caught. Someone whose lies had been dragged into the light. Someone who suddenly realized the person he thought was weak wasn't weak at all. His voice cracked the air like lightning. What the hell is this? My hand stilled on the car door. Then another sound, Emily's voice, high and panicked. Nathan. What? What's in the box? What's wrong? Papers rustling. Footsteps. Something hitting the wall. And then another scream. This one, even louder. Who gave you this? Who put this at our door? Who? A pause. A deadly, quiet pause. Then, your mother. It was your mother. Emily gasped. I closed my eyes, inhaled deeply, and whispered, It's begun. Behind me, chaos erupted in their apartment. Emily shouting. Nathan yelling louder. Accusations flying. The beginnings of a truth neither of them could escape. Footsteps stomped. A chair scraped. More paper flapping as documents were snatched, thrown, shoved forward. Then Emily's voice, breaking, trembling. Nathan, what is all this? What is this? The deaths? The other women? The lies? Nathan, tell me this isn't real. He didn't scream then. He growled. Something guttural. Dark. The kind of sound a man makes when he realizes the person he underestimated has outplayed him. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what he was seeing. His unpaid liens. His fake job records. His financial manipulation patterns. Claire's sworn statement. Lily's screenshots. His uncle's past attempt at taking my lake house. His emails. His debt collector's notices. His property targeting notes. His own words recorded by a former colleague. And sitting on top of it all, a keychain with 2 keys. Fake keys. Just to make sure he walked right into the trap. I slid into the driver's seat. As I closed the door, I heard one final sound. A thud. Something or someone hit the wall hard. Emily screamed his name. Not in fear. In shock. In betrayal. Then, silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. The kind that settles only when truth has landed exactly where it needs to. I started my engine. As I pulled out of the parking lot, the silver gift box, now shredded open, flashed in the corner of my eye at the top of the staircase. A beautiful gift. Wrapped in elegance. Filled with destruction. The perfect beginning. Because the truth had detonated. And nothing would ever be the same again. When I drove away from my daughter's apartment that morning, I didn't speed. I didn't shake. I didn't look back. I simply drove. Because I knew what was happening behind me. I knew the storm had begun. And there was no stopping it now. I had barely pulled into my driveway when my phone lit up with the first call. Emily, incoming call. My breath caught. Not in fear, in readiness. I let it ring once. Twice. 3 times. Then I answered. Mom. Her voice trembled, breathless and raw, as if she'd been crying or screaming. Mom, what did you do? I didn't answer her question. Instead, I said softly, Where is Nathan? She sniffed, voice cracking. He left. He stormed out after throwing the box across the room. He said he needed to clean up a F asterisk 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 ing mess before things get worse. Mom, what was in that box? I didn't hesitate. Truth. Silence on the other end, then a quiet, shattered whisper. What truth? It began like this. Emily, he said it's all lies. Me. Does he sound like a man who's innocent? Emily. No. And then the floodgates opened. He's pacing outside on the balcony. He's screaming into his phone. He threw a note at me. Mom, he looks terrified. He said you're crazy. He said you're trying to ruin our marriage. He said you want to destroy him. I kept my voice steady.
This isn't about him.
It's about you, Emily. She didn't respond. Then, he's coming back inside. Hang on. I heard muffled rustling, footsteps, a door swinging open. Nathan's voice poured through the line, sharp and vicious. Give me the damn phone.
Now.
Emily gasped. Nathan, stop. You don't talk to her. You don't talk to anyone. And then, a loud bang, a slam, a crash. My grip tightened on the phone. Emily, I said sharply. No response. Emily, finally a small, shaky whisper. I'm okay. He threw the lamp. Mom, I'm scared. The words sliced through me like a blade. Before I could speak, Nathan's voice roared again. Your mother is trying to destroy us.
Don't you see that?
She wants you to hate me. She wants your property. She's jealous, Emily. It was almost funny. The man who wanted her property accusing me of wanting hers. The man who married her without telling me accusing me of controlling her. The man who had lied, manipulated, deceived. Calling me jealous. He was unraveling. And that meant the plan was working. Nathan, I said calmly, loud enough for him to hear. The chaos froze. You know exactly what you saw in that box, I continued. You know those documents are real. You know those voices are real. You know those women exist. Breathing. Heavy breathing. Ragged breathing. Nathan snarled, voice shaking. You don't know a damn thing about me. I know everything, I said.
The debts.
The past fiancés. The property targeting. The lies. The uncle. The loan fraud attempts. The compulsive manipulation. You have no proof. Oh, sweetheart, I said. You haven't even seen the second folder yet. Silence. For the first time since I met him, Nathan had no words. I heard Emily whisper, "What second folder?" I smiled to myself. The second folder, hidden beneath the documents, contained screenshots of his fake consulting invoices, his tax lien notice, a copy of his uncle's cease and desist threat, his bounce checks, bank statements showing transfers between accounts tied to Lily and Claire, a list of property deeds he attempted to co-sign in previous relationships. He had only opened the first layer when he screamed. He hadn't even gotten to the worst of it. Nathan hissed into the phone. You listen to me. If you don't stay out of this, I will. I cut him off with a calm, lethal tone. You will do nothing. A pause. You will not approach the lake house. You will not pressure my daughter. You will not touch her finances. And you will not hide from the truth anymore. Another pause. Longer. Darker. Then, through gritted teeth. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I smiled slowly. Oh, but I do. And I hung up. 5 minutes later. Emily, incoming call. When I answered, her voice was breaking. Mom, what is happening? What is all of this? I softened my voice. Sweetheart, everything I've done, every document, every screenshot, it's all real. I didn't make anything up. I don't understand, she whispered. Why would he lie to me? Why would he hide all this? Because he needed you isolated. Because he needed your assets. Because he needed your trust to drain you. But I didn't dump it all on her at once. Instead, I said, Emily, why do you think he married you in secret? She inhaled sharply. Because he loved me. Or, I said gently, because he wanted legal access to you before anyone could warn you. Dead silence. Then weakly, why did he want the lake house so badly? I almost hated saying it. Almost. He wanted you to convince me to add him to the property deed. It's standard for spouses to share assets. Once he had joint ownership, he would sell it, or borrow against it, or use it as leverage. A small sob escaped her. No, he would not, Nathan, he loves me. The denial was soft.
Childlike.
Wounded. Emily, I said, look at the documents. Read the statements from the women he nearly ruined. Look at their stories. They're identical to yours. She sniffed hard. I'm scared, she whispered. I don't know what's real anymore.
You're not alone, I said.
I'm right here. The call came exactly 10 minutes later. Unknown caller. Something told me to answer. Hello. A voice, low, urgent, unfamiliar. Helen, this is Officer Pruitt from the Willow Run Police Department. We received a call from your daughter's neighbors. There's been a disturbance involving her husband. My heart stopped. Is she hurt? No, he said quickly. Not physically, but she's shaken. We need you to come. I grabbed my keys. I'm on my way. When I arrived, 2 officers were already outside. Nathan was nowhere to be seen. Emily stood against the railing, arms wrapped around herself, eyes red and swollen. When she saw me, her face crumpled, and she rushed into my arms. Mom, she sobbed. I don't know who he is. He tried to grab the documents. He smashed the box. He said he'd fix this by tonight. Mom, he's lying about everything, isn't he? I held her tight. Yes, I whispered. He is. One officer stepped forward. Ma'am, your daughter is safe for now. But her husband, he took off in his car. We're advising her not to stay here tonight. Emily nodded quickly. I want to go home with my mom. Home. My throat tightened. But the officer added. One more thing. Before he left, he tried to kick in the maintenance room door downstairs. What? Emily whispered. He seemed desperate. Looking for something. I knew exactly what he was looking for. The real lake house keys. He wanted to get there before I could stop him. But he would fail. Because the real keys were in my purse. And the copies I left him wouldn't open a single lock. As the officers escorted us out, my phone buzzed. A message from Nathan. You think you won? You think you're clever? You have no idea what's coming. I exhaled slow and steady. Then typed. Oh, Nathan, you have no idea what I have planned next. And hit send. Because the consequences were only beginning. And soon, very soon, he would learn that a mother protecting her child is the most dangerous force in the world. We sat at my kitchen table the next morning like people who had been given back broken pieces of glass and were trying to decide whether to try to tape them together or throw them away. Emily's hands were wrapped around a mug of coffee she hadn't touched. Her fingers trembled slightly. The skin around her knuckles was pale. She kept glancing down at the small stack of papers I'd given to the police. Copies of the statements, the screenshots, the emails, the list of past victims. Every so often her eyes flicked to the window where the lake glinted in the distance, a calm, ignorant stretch of water that had no idea a storm had nearly stolen its name. For 2 years she'd been living inside someone else's story. Now she was reading the footnotes. She picked up Claire's statement first, the inked words that had taken Claire hours to type between panic attacks and fear. Emily read slowly, mouthing phrases, stopping when something punched her in the chest. The name of a bank, a screenshot, a bank transfer, a line that said, he told me to add him as a joint owner. Then she looked up at me with eyes I hadn't seen since she was 12 and decided to stand up to the girl who'd been bullying her at school. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, voice small and accusing and raw all at once. I could feel the old hurt stretching between us like a taut wire. It could have snapped us both. I set my coffee down. I uncapped the truth slowly, honestly. I did try, I began. I called. I asked. You told me you wanted space, remember? You said you and Trevor needed to establish independence. You called it healthy. I let the word hang between us. When you wouldn't tell me who he was or where he worked, I asked friends. I hired a private investigator quietly because I was watching you disappear. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd get angry and push away. I was trying to protect you without making you feel attacked. Her cheeks flushed. A knot nicked her voice. You hid things from me. You spied. I did, I said. And I'd do it 1,000 times over if it meant saving you. The silence that followed was complicated. It tasted like two people who had both been hurt and both loved each other enough not to run. She set the folder down. Her fingers traced the corner of a photocopied email as if it might dissolve into skin. Show me everything, she said quietly.
So I did.
I went through every file with her, patiently, gently, reading the emails aloud, replaying the audio clips from his old colleague, showing the scanned lien notices and the bank transfers. I kept my voice calm, even when it was hard not to tremble. The room was quiet but for the scratch of paper and the occasional break of her breath. At first there was disbelief, denial, a soft, clumsy argument on Nathan's behalf, the kind only love and fear can manufacture. He couldn't have done that to Claire, she murmured once. He loved her. He hurt her, I said. He hurt others too. It's a pattern.
It took time.
It took patience. It took the slow undoing of lies layered over real memory. And then, like dawn over the lake, clarity arrived.
Her posture changed.
Her jaw set. The old softness in her voice hardened into steel. The same steel I'd seen when she stood up to a bully at 13. Oh my God, she whispered. He planned this. He planned me. Tears came, silent and hot, but they were not the same as the earlier sobs. These were cleansing, the sort that wash away the fog. I'm sorry, she said, not to me but to herself. I should have seen it. I should have listened to you. You weren't supposed to, I answered. He's very good at what he does. She laughed once, a short, disbelieving sound, and then reached for my hand like she had when she was a child and needed reassurance that monsters under the bed were just shadows. We need to make him pay, she said, clear and decisive. Not for revenge. For protection. For the others. Her eyes were bright with purpose. Not the flinty rage of humiliation, but the focused heat of someone who had been wronged and was choosing to fight back. First, she added, I want the house safe. Already done, I said. I've secured the deeds. Originals are in a bank safe, and I changed the locks last night. She stared at me. You did what? I changed the locks. I smiled faintly. You wouldn't have let me do it when you were angry at me. But he won't get the keys. She let out a breath that sounded like a laugh and cry at once. You're ridiculous, Mom. I love you. I love you more, I said. And I meant it more than the words could carry. That afternoon we met with Agent Pruitt and Elena, my lawyer friend, in a small conference room at the police station. Emily sat upright, calm and coherent. She answered questions with a clarity that scared me because I knew the force of it. When she spoke, there was no trembling anymore. There was conviction. You were separated from your family for how long? The agent asked gently. She told the truth, the whole humiliating, painful truth. Months of isolation, dinner plans canceled because it complicated things, money she'd been persuaded to keep private, documents she'd been coaxed into signing, promises that hadn't been kept. She spoke and the room listened. Every word, she said, built a case. At one point, Agent Pruitt placed a folder on the table, the one containing the combined statements from Claire, Lily, and the others. Emily took it in her hands. It felt like a weapon and a salve all at once. We're going to proceed, the agent said. We'll open an official investigation. We'll get subpoenas if necessary. We'll notify federal investigators if the offshore accounts appear. Emily's face flickered with something strong and fierce. Do it, she said. Expose him. Then she turned to me and, with an expression that felt like a promise, said, Thank you. 2 small words. Simple. Loaded. They were the first time she'd really spoken to me like we were on the same side again. On the drive home, she reached over and took my hand. For a while we drove in silence, just the car and our breathing and the steady road ahead. Later that evening we sat on the porch with a mug of tea between us, watching the lake do what lakes do, reflect, ripple, be patient. I missed this, she said softly. So did I replied. So did I. We didn't fix everything that night. Healing takes time. Trust is rebuilt in the small, steady currency of consistent days. But the shift was the most important part. She knew.
She believed.
She chose me. And in that choice, everything changed. Because a daughter who stands with her mother is more dangerous to a predator than any army. The power had finally reversed. And Nathan, whoever he thought he was now the one who would be hunted, not the hunter. The shift in Emily wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic in the Hollywood sense. It was quiet, focused, methodical. The kind of change that comes when a woman realizes she's been sleeping next to a lie. By Monday morning, she was ready to fight. And that was perfect timing. Because while Emily was waking up to the truth, Nathan was busy burning down the last pieces of his own life. The first strategic move Elena, my lawyer friend, advised was simple. Freeze Emily's accounts. All of them. She had a savings account, an emergency fund, and a joint account she'd almost opened with Nathan but didn't quite finish. Almost. Thank God for almost. Emily sat opposite Elena in her office, signing forms with hands that didn't tremble anymore. Will he know? Emily asked. Eventually, Elena said. But that's the point. We closed every open route he had to her money. And then we closed the ones he planned to take. When Emily clicked confirm closure on the last dormant account, she let out a breath that sounded like relief and fire stitched together. Next, she asked. Elena smiled like a general pleased with her lieutenant. Next, we expose him. Agent Pruitt set up a meeting room at the precinct. Inside.
Claire.
Lily. A woman named Angelica, who had emailed the officer that morning after seeing a vague social media post from Claire about another woman needing help. Nathan wasn't just a manipulator. He was a serial operator. Each woman brought evidence. Screenshots, voice notes, bank statements, attempts at cohabitation contracts, even one handwritten note where he demanded access to a lake property. I watched Emily from across the table. Every new revelation broke her and hardened her at the same time. There is a particular pain in realizing you are not the exception. You are the pattern. But Emily did not collapse. She rose. I'm testifying, she said. The room stilled. Claire blinked. Lily nodded. Angelica whispered, Good. Agent Pruitt looked impressed. He opened his notebook. Then we're moving forward with charges. That afternoon, Nathan returned to Emily's apartment. He walked through the parking lot as if he owned the building, shoulders squared, jaw tight, eyes scanning everything. He moved like a man ready for a fight, not realizing he was already outnumbered. 2 officers stepped out of the stairwell and approached him. Are you Nathan Morgan? The look on his face, shock twisting into rage, was a painting.
Yes.
Why? You're being served with a temporary restraining order and a notice of pending investigation. He stepped back. What the hell are you talking about? The officer held out the envelope. Nathan slapped it away. Big mistake. We can do this peacefully, the officer said. Or we can escalate. Nathan's chest heaved. My wife will never agree to this. She already did. His face drained of color. That moment, that second, was the crack in his armor. His mask slipped. His confidence wobbled. His game blew open. Nathan realized he had lost control of Emily. And that was the first nail in his coffin. When Emily returned home, she found a voicemail on her phone from Nathan. She played it on speaker while sitting next to me on the couch. His voice poured out, shaky, desperate, enraged. Emily, baby, please. They're lying to you. Your mother is manipulating everyone. You don't understand the danger you're putting me in. I need you to delete those files. I need you to tell them you exaggerated. Emily, I could go to jail. Do you want that? Is that what you want for your husband? You're my wife now. You owe me support. If you don't fix this, I swear to God, Emily, I will. The voicemail cut off. The last words were enough. Emily stared at the phone, breath shaky. Agent Pruitt listened to the recording, eyebrows raised. That, he said, is coercion. And a threat. We'll be adding that. Nathan had handed them more evidence with his own voice. The emergency hearing took place the following Wednesday. Nathan walked into the courtroom looking like he'd been iron flat. Hair slicked, tie pulled tight, suit crisp, but the bags under his eyes betrayed him. Emily sat at our table, chin lifted, hands steady. When the judge called the room to order, Nathan surged to his feet. Your Honor, this is absurd, he snapped. My wife is being manipulated by her mother and... The judge cut him off. Mr. Morgan, sit down. You'll speak when spoken to. Emily's lawyer, Elena, rose. Your Honor, we present evidence of financial misrepresentation, documented debt, attempts at property manipulation, coercion, witness statements from 3 past fiancés, threat via voicemail, attempts to access protected property, and a history of predatory behavior. She handed the judge a binder.
Thick.
Organized. Devastating. Nathan's face paled as the judge flipped through the documents. This is extensive, the judge murmured. Mr. Morgan, do you have representation? I don't need representation. The judge snapped her head up.
Sit.
Down. His jaw locked. He sat. The judge continued reviewing the evidence. Claire took the stand first. Then Lily. Then Angelica. Each told their story. Each named him. Each connected the same patterns. Nathan began sweating visibly. When Emily walked to the stand, the room held its breath. She adjusted the microphone. My name is Emily Whitford, she began. And I didn't know I was marrying a con artist until my mother showed me the truth. Nathan flinched. Emily continued, voice steady. He isolated me. He pressured me. He lied about his job, his finances, his past relationships. He married me quickly, without my family present, and immediately began pushing me to get access to my property. That is not love. That is strategy. Then she looked directly at him. And I am not your target anymore. Nathan shot up from his seat. You don't talk to me like. 3 officers jumped forward. Mr. Morgan, you're out of order, the judge barked. One more outburst, and I'll have you removed from this courtroom. He sat, shaking with rage. Emily's testimony was the turning point. 3 women had told stories. But Emily? She told the truth he could no longer outrun. After hours of evidence, testimony, and Nathan's increasingly deranged attempts to interrupt, the judge leaned back, expression cold and sharp. Mr. Morgan, she said, the evidence suggests a clear pattern of financial manipulation, coercion, and intentional deception spanning multiple relationships. Nathan swallowed hard. Therefore, I am issuing a full restraining order, a seizure request for the electronic devices pending investigation, a freeze on any shared accounts, and referral to the district attorney for criminal charges. Nathan sputtered. You can't do this. I'm her husband. I have rights. The judge lifted an eyebrow. Not anymore. A collective hush settled over the room. Bailiffs, she said firmly. Escort Mr. Morgan out. The moment they touched his arms, he snapped. He lunged forward, shouting, Emily, fix this. If I go down, you go down with. His voice was cut off as 3 officers pinned him to the ground. Handcuffs clicked. Emily didn't flinch, didn't look away, didn't cry. She watched quietly, her face composed, her breathing steady, like a woman finally free. As they dragged him from the room, he twisted back toward us, eyes wild. This isn't over, Emily whispered.
Yes,
it is. And just like that, Nathan's world collapsed. Exactly as it needed to. Exactly as it deserved to. After the courtroom chaos and the long drive home, the house felt impossibly quiet. Not empty, just quiet. The kind of quiet that follows a storm when the air is still thick but peaceful, as if the world is taking a breath. Emily walked into the living room slowly, as though seeing it for the first time. Her eyes paused on the photos along the mantel, birthday parties, lake trips, holidays, lost teeth, school projects. A life preserved in frames. She touched one with the tip of her fingers, a picture of us at the lake house when she was 9. She was missing her 2 front teeth. I was sunburned from sitting on the dock too long. We were laughing mid-movement, hair wild from the breeze. Emily swallowed hard. I forgot who I was, she murmured. I stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on her back. You didn't forget, I said softly. You were misled. She shook her head. I should have known, Mom. I should have known. Guilt was soaking through her voice, heavy and warm and corrosive. I turned her gently to face me. Sweetheart, listen to me. You don't get to blame yourself for trusting someone who pretended to love you. Trust is not your flaw, it's your strength.
He exploited that strength. He manipulated it.
That doesn't make you weak. That makes him a predator. She bit her lip, tears forming again, but not the wild, frantic tears of panic and fear. These were slower, deeper, the kind that come when the truth finally settles and the heart begins stitching itself back together. I hurt you, she whispered. I shut you out. I chose him over you. My voice softened. No, I said. You thought you were choosing love. You thought you were choosing a future. You weren't choosing him. You were choosing what you hoped he could be. Her tears broke then, falling quietly down her cheeks. She leaned forward, resting her forehead on my shoulder. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I held her like I did when she was little and scraped her knee. Held her the way I held her after her father died, when she cried until her body gave out. Held her with the fierce love only a mother knows. I never stopped loving you, I whispered into her hair. Not for 1 second. She pulled back with a trembling exhale. I don't deserve you, she said. Actually, I smiled, wiping the tears from her cheeks. You're exactly the kind of daughter I prayed for, even when you were making mistakes. That's part of life. She let out a shaky laugh. You always know what to say. Years of practice, I teased gently. She looked at me for a long moment. Not the confused, defensive look she'd been giving me for months, but the look of a daughter seeing her mother clearly again. The look of recognition. The look of coming home. I want to go to the lake house, she said suddenly. My eyebrows lifted.
Now. Yes. Today. I
need to see it. I need to remember. I nodded. Then let's go. The drive there was quiet but warm. Not tense silence, but thoughtful silence. The kind where 2 people are healing side by side. When we reached the lake house, Emily stepped out of the car slowly, as though approaching a sacred place. And in a way, she was. The house looked the same as ever. Weathered cedar siding, the old rocking chair on the porch, the wind chimes that sang whenever the breeze rolled off the water. She walked up the steps and placed her hand on the wooden door. This feels like stepping back into myself, she whispered. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. She unlocked the door with the real key this time and stepped inside. The sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting warm, golden rectangles across the wooden floor. Dust motes floated like tiny spirits in the air. The place smelled like pine and memories. Emily walked to the kitchen, touching the counter where she'd rolled cookie dough as a kid. She walked to the living room, running her palm over the sofa where she'd watched cartoons. She moved to the porch, stepping out into the quiet morning air. The lake shimmered.
Calm. Still.
Unchanged. This place saved me, she said softly. When Dad died, when everything felt wrong, this house saved me. Her voice cracked. And I almost let someone take it. I almost gave him the keys to the safest place I've ever known. I stepped beside her. That's why I fought, I said. Not because of the house itself, but because it's part of us. Your dad's memory. Our summers. Your childhood. The best pieces of our lives are inside these walls. She closed her eyes, breathing in the lake air. Then she whispered, Mom, thank you for not giving him the keys. A tear slipped down her cheek. And then she did something she hadn't done in years. She took my hand and squeezed it, firm, grounding, real. "I want to rebuild things with you," she said. "I want us back." "You never lost me," I said. "But I'm glad you're back." We sat on the porch swing together just like we used to, wrapped in a blanket, sipping tea, watching the water ripple in gentle waves. For the first time in a long time, everything felt right. No screaming, no lies, no manipulation, just peace, just mother and daughter, just home. The sun began to set over the lake, turning the water into a sheet of molten gold. Emily and I stayed on the porch swing, wrapped in the familiar quilt I'd patched together nearly 15 years ago. Neither of us spoke for a long time. We didn't need to. Some silences aren't empty. Some are full. Full of healing. Full of meaning. Full of everything that had been missing between us for far too long. Emily leaned her head on my shoulder. "Mom, I don't know what comes next," she whispered. "We take it one day at a time," I said softly. "There's no rush to figure things out." She nodded, letting the breeze brush her hair back. For the first time in months, she looked peaceful. Not forced peace, not smiling through the pain peace, but real peace. The kind that settles after truth finally arrives. Nathan would face his consequences. The legal process had already begun. There would be hearings, follow-ups, likely charges, maybe even prison. But none of that was our burden anymore. Not tonight. Not on this porch. Not in this moment. Emily reached for my hand again. "I'm going to be okay, Mom. I know that now." "I know you will," I said. "You're stronger than you think." A small smile curved on her lips. "I get that from you." I laughed quietly, brushing a stray tear from her cheek. "Maybe." The sky shifted from gold to lavender, then to the soft navy of approaching night. The first star blinked into view. The air cooled, and the lake calmed into gentle ripples like nature itself was exhaling. "I miss this place," Emily whispered. "I missed us." "We're here," I said. "We're together. That's what matters." She nodded, pressing her cheek into my shoulder. It wasn't just reconciliation, it was rebirth. Not the same relationship as before, but a stronger one. A wiser one. A relationship forged through a storm and emerging into sunlight. As the last streak of daylight faded, I whispered something I'd been holding in my heart for weeks. "You came home, and that's all I ever wanted." Emily squeezed my hand. "I won't leave again. Not like that." And in her voice, I heard truth, steady, honest, unbroken. We stayed there, letting the night settle around us, watching the quiet dance of a lake under the first stars. No words, no worry, just the peaceful silence of a chapter closing and another beginning. When I finally turned to her, I said the words I wanted every listener, every viewer, every soul who had ever felt unheard to feel. Thanks for listening. And remember, your voice matters. Because it does. More than most people will ever admit. More than most family members ever realize. And more than predators like Nathan will ever understand. Emily looked at me, eyes soft and full. And together, we watched the lake, steady, unwavering, enduring, just like us.